Well, hello, everybody. I want to thank Laura Wolf and the Texas Council on Family Violence for all this wonderful support that we have, and Representative Davis and Senator Nelson. There's a woman that has been an amazing pioneer in the crusade to end violence against women, and her name is Karen Wilson. And I just want to quote her. "Violence begins at home," and nothing can be more true for me personally. My mother was a victim of domestic violence when I was a child, and her mother, an immigrant from central Italy, was also a victim. And as I was growing up, I watched these dynamics. And lo and behold, what happens when you watch those dynamics in your family, you repeat that, just not knowing that you're going to do it. And so I did. My first marriage, I was married to a man that beat me and kicked me and severely berated me during our marriage, and also drugged me involuntarily. And we were both students at the time. He was a medical student. And like Senator Nelson said, this thing crosses all social, economic, and cultural boundaries. And at the time, I was not aware of what my options were. As I saw my mother as I was growing up, she had no options. In the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, there were no options for her. And today, there are. My neighbors in Houston, when that's where we lived, came to me and said, you know, there are shelters for people who are victims of domestic violence, and when you're ready, that'll be there for you. That option was not there for my mother. So I look back and when the violence was going on, what caused me to leave? Because I put up with it for a long time. And the last straw was the violence was being directed toward my 2-year-old daughter. And I said, no, no more. I may be the one taking this, the brunt of his rage. When it happens to my child, that's it. So I decided to go to a shelter in Houston, and that was 20 years ago. And I went to the Houston area Women's Center. And when I called, I'll never forget that day, there was no waiting list. And I don't know what I would have done if I'd called and there was a waiting list. I don't know if I would be here today. The shelter provided counseling and safety, and I remember the first night I was there. It was the first night in years that I could sleep without being afraid. And an interesting story about my daughter, she was a little bit more than 2. She was having a hard time potty training, and the first day at the shelter, that was the last time she ever had an accident. For her, she was under so much stress that even she felt safe now, and I was not aware of the impact it was having on her. We fast forward to the present. It's been a long time ago, 20 years, and a lot's happened, and I was poor for a very long time. But I don't think I would change what I did and the choices I made. I went to complete my undergrad degree in chemistry at the University of Houston, and I earned my PhD degree here at UT in chemistry. And I've been employed in the semiconductor industry for 13 years and have patents and papers. And I always promised that if I could ever give back, that I would. So that's why we're speaking to you today. And I'm on the board of Safe Place, the battered women's shelter here in Austin. And I'm just amazed at the amount of work that they do in all the shelters in our great state of Texas. We provide resources that were not there for my mother and for her mother. The funds that we need appropriated by the Texas legislature will help agencies all across her state. And this critical mission is not over. If you think back, why are we here today? We are here because there's been thousands of years that women have been victims of violence. We are just a very small portion of that. You look at the time frame that we've been working on this. It's a very small time frame, and there's so much more to do. And these voices are just yelling, change our world. And that's what you guys are going to do. So thank you for being here, and thanks for all your support.
Thank you so much for being here. This concludes our formal press conference. I know that Representative Davis has to run to a meeting, and I heard the bell ringing for Senator Nelson. But maybe if there are one or two quick questions, Laura is available for interviews if any of you would like to speak with Laura Presley or with me. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Oh, so much.
I know it.
So impressed. I'm so impressed. Thank you.
Yeah, they're going to be able to do